store.rossmangroup.com. Still shipping, 99% corona-free. Not tested by the CDC. Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well today. So we are going to be fixing yet another dead MacBook. It does look like we are an essential service. MacBook repair is quite essential. Over here, vendors that provide essential services or products, including technology support. Technology support. So we are going to be fixing yet another MacBook with liquid damage. This is a machine for someone that said they needed to work from home. All right, so what I'm going to do here is what I always do with the MacBook. I'm going to turn on the power supply. Set this thing to 18.5 volts. So it's a MacBook charger. And see how much power this MacBook takes. This MacBook is already turning on. What? Come on, you're not making me seem like a very essential service here. The fuck? You already work. Why are you here? Is there no backlight? Maybe that's why. Backlight is 8.6 volts. Okay, so this is a no backlight issue then, it seems like. Let's see, is the screen itself turning on? Are we getting 3 volts in the screen? Yes, we are. We're getting 3.3 volts in the screen. So what it looks like here is we have a no backlight problem. You can see the little Apple logo there. See that? Hard to tell, but there is an Apple logo. So what we got to do here, and we're getting 8.6 volts on LCD backlight. Now, when it comes to no backlight issues, I always measure the voltage at the backlight output because it'll give you an idea of what your problem is. I also mentioned this in my troubleshooting guide, and if you have a MacBook Air with no backlight and you go to borge.rossmangroup.com, you'll see that in the MacBook board repair section, there's a sticky thread that goes through how to fix MacBook Air no backlight issues, and even if you're not a paid member of the forum, it is free to read the entire guide, which includes more than enough information for you to be able to troubleshoot your no backlight issue. Rusty Shackleford says, what determines what is essential? My job is essential because it helps me pay my bills. Who decides this newspeak meaning? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I saw that I was commenting on my stream on the way here, is that I saw there was a bunch of liquor stores that were still open, wine shops that were open, there were vape shops that are open. I mean, if you're an alcoholic, the liquor store is kind of essential. You know, if you're addicted to cigarettes and nicotine, the vape store being open is essential. Essential is a very subjective term. It really depends on what it is that you are talking about, especially when it comes to people who are working from home. I mean, having your technology is essential. The South Korean model seems to be fairly interesting. What it looks like they're doing is, so the first thing is they didn't try to spread that dumbass message that you don't need a mask early on. Because even if the mask doesn't help you stop from getting the virus, it stops you from spreading it considerably more than it stops you from getting it. So them wearing the mask means it's going to spread less. They have more available testing, and they're not shutting everything down. They're just separating out the people that have it. What's really fucked up with coronavirus testing here, which is just beyond stupid, is that you cannot, even if you show symptoms of having coronavirus, people are being told that they cannot get tested for coronavirus unless they came into contact with someone that has it. But how do you know if they have it if they can't get the test? So you need to get the test to be able to tell if you have it. In order for your friends and family members to know if they have it, which is a prerequisite for you to get the test, they need to get tested, but they can't get tested without knowing. The fuck? Why do you fuck up everything? God damn it. It's like, I live in New York. I'm used to the government being useless and just taking my money and not providing me much in return. But can you stop being so fucking useless? It's so aggravating. You can't get tested unless you come in contact with someone with the virus. But that person you came into contact with can't know if they got it because they can't get tested without knowing someone who came into contact with it. So, like, who is this fucking Virgin Mary of coronavirus that was the only person that's able to get a test that we can link this back to? Like, who do I have to pretend I came into contact with to get a test? And yes, I get it. The tests are scarce. Why are they scarce? Why is it that if somebody's willing to pay $600 or $1,000 out of pocket that you can't come up with a fucking test? Other countries figured it out. And this isn't even private versus public, because I know there's going to be people that say, see, and that's what's going to happen with people that want Medicare for all. I used to work for a health insurance company as a salesman. I worked at Atlantis Healthcare. I was fully licensed to sell healthcare. Trust me, government health sucks. Private healthcare sucks. They had like rooms filled with people that did nothing but try to beat the doctors down on their costs, and then another room of people that just dealt with customers when they were telling the customers what wasn't covered that they thought was covered. They told me as a salesman, the moment you sell a customer, you add them to your phone. The reason you add them to your phone is so that if they ever call you again, you don't answer the phone. Because you know that was somebody you already sold. Why bother wasting time on them? Why should I take time out of my day to actually answer an existing customer's question when I could spend that time helping a new fucking customer? No, off to the call center with you. Yeah, I mean, they all suck. Private healthcare, it's shit. You have to know someone who had been tested positive to get tested. Yeah, but if nobody can get a test, then how does that work? How does that work? It's so fucking stupid. Because that's the thing, if I could get a test right, because if anything, even people who are not symptomatic, I'd like to know if I have it, because if I have it, I'm locking myself in a room all day and I'm not going outside for the good of the people that I know. But I don't know if I have it. People are going to be willing to make those sacrifices, they'll make those decisions if they have the information available. But they're not going to if they don't have the information available. All right. Let's get off that rant, because if I continue on that line, I will never get a board fixed. And if I don't get boards fixed, I am no longer essential. So one of the things that we see here is that the line for PP3V42_G3 hot to the DC-in board is corroded. Now this is needed for the Hall sensor to operate. The Hall sensor is going to be what tells the machine if it thinks it's closed. So when there's a magnet in the upper lid of the computer, and that magnet, when it contacts the Hall sensor, is going to let the machine know that it's closed. But the problem is that if it's not being powered properly, then it may tell the computer it's closed when it's not, and that's when you get no backlight, when you're not supposed to get no backlight. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and resolder that so that it works, and we may have to replace that DC-in board cable as well. Thank you, Bob in Delaware. I appreciate that. Okay, so now we've scraped away the corrosion, unlike that Apple refurb board that I showed you all in a recent video, where they just soldered on top of the corrosion. Let's overclock the light a little bit so you can see that. That is one overclocked ring light right there. Nash, I'm glad that you're happy for my air compressor. It has made it. The next up is the backlight driver itself. Now, the ball that always corrodes, the first thing to get destroyed, as usual, is the feedback ball. So the way this circuit works is that it's going to take a lower voltage, like 8.5 volts, from the battery or the charger creating PP-Bus G3 hot, and it's going to turn it into a higher voltage, like 25 to 27 volts. That's done via DC to DC boost circuit. And that DC to DC boost circuit is going to need to see what it is that it's creating at output. And that's going to happen at the feedback ball right over here. So this is going to be our DC to DC boost circuit. You have 8 volts coming in, 27 volts out. The way this works is that the 8 volts goes through a coil. And if you short the coil to ground, which is what this chip does really fast, it makes the coil really mad, and the coil goes rar, 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 and then the coil starts outputting higher voltage, like 27 volts. Really cool, ain't it? So this needs to know how often to switch. The more often it switches, the more it pisses off the coil, the more voltage it makes. Now, if it's switching too slow, then the output is going to be too low. Maybe it'll be 14 volts instead of 25. And the feedback line on the LED driver is going to sense that. And it's going to go, we need to speed up, switch and piss off the coil more. And the coil is going to go, no, and make more voltage. Now, if it sees, oh crap, we're making 30 or 40 or 50 volts at a backlight output, it'll start switching slower and it'll stop pissing the coil off, and the coil will go, That's what, and that's how this is essentially going to work. That's at least the more scientific physics, chemistry, all that explanation of what's going on. Now, that's going to be the area that gets the most damage first, is that feedback ball, because that's where the output voltage is. That's the highest voltage there. Everything else over here, you have areas where, look, we have 5 volts coming into the chip. You've got 3 volts coming into the chip. You have little signaling voltages over here. That's why that's always the section that corrodes first. The feedback ball corrodes first because the highest voltage is there. Therefore, it's going to get the most damage. So we are going to replace this with a new LED driver that you can buy on store.rossmangroup.com. Still shipping. 99% corona free. Not tested by the CDC. And the coil goes, oh my gosh, says yum. Oh, yep, it does. The feedback trace is not what actually got all the heat. You can also see that the switch trace, which is the switching, that's what makes the coil mad, has also gotten quite a bit of nastiness on it. That red stuff is MacBook board blood. The board is bleeding. Okay, I'm going to grab a donor board and an LP8550, and then we'll be right back. Hold on, folks. Don't touch that dial. Did you hear about the 2 potential payments of $1,000 that they're planning on sending to every citizen? Yes, I have. When my landlord says that they still want $12,500 for the time that we're closed, that's kind of a drop in the bucket for me. We'll see. Hi. Nobody can see you. How are you? Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. What do you think about the tweezers? Are they worth buying? Nah, I'm not a big fan of the hot tweezers. I've never been a big fan of hot tweezers. I prefer having the hot air. I'm only using them because David took my freaking micro pencil. Son of a bitch. Everything's flowed into its proper place. This cap is fine. That was very superficial corrosion. I'm just triggered by it, so I'm replacing it. $2,000 isn't. It's a lot for $1,000 or $2,000 is going to be a lot for normal people, for regular people. For business owners that are paying business expenses, it's really a drop in the bucket. But we'll see what they release for that. That was actually superficial. That's going from this to that. So that's not where a signal is on the other side of the board. You'll see. I wanted to straighten that probe point, but it was barely even really attached to the board. Yeah, so that's coming from the LED driver and going to the resistor, then to the probe point. It's not going from the probe point to the resistor, then the LED driver. All right, so what I need to do now is get myself another DC in cable, because around this area where I cleaned up a little bit, it's not going to work properly with the old DC in board cable. If there was enough corrosion to damage this, then it's going to need a new DC in cable. So I'm going to check that out, and then we'll see how backlight works after that is all set and done. And I imagine backlight is going to be 25 volts. It's going to give us a nice pretty picture on the screen, and then this person can go back to working from home. And this is kind of what happens when people work from home. They get liquid damage. This actually happens when people work from work, they get liquid damage. This definitely happens when people are on vacation, they get liquid damage. If they're working from the beach, they get liquid damage. Yep. Liquid damage. Corona. Corona. Get rid of Corona. All right. .24 volts of backlight. Well, that is essentially fixed. You're going to see a happy little Apple logo appear on the screen soon. Actually, not an Apple logo. I don't have the SSD plugged in, so you're going to see a question mark folder. But you are going to see a question mark folder show up. Show me that essential question mark folder. Question mark folder. So what was wrong with this board was liquid damage, but it had two pieces of liquid damage that were keeping it from working. The first piece of liquid damage was along the DC in board connector to the DC in board. The reason that the DC in board is important here is that there is a Hall sensor in the machine, so that when the machine is open, Hall sensor detects nothing. When it's closed, Hall sensor detects that it's closed and tells the machine, hey, you don't have to produce a backlight anymore. The screen's closed. However, if that Hall sensor is not working properly because it's not receiving power, it may always assume it's closed. That's why you'll have A1369 and A1466 machines where if you get liquid on the left side, not the right side, it'll be an intermittent flickering. Whereas if you get it on the right side, it's just no backlight at all. The next problem we had was that the feedback via, as well as the two balls for switching on the LED driver, were completely corroded. As well as, and there was minor corrosion, but it probably still would have worked around the backlight enable circuit for the LED driver. So we just replaced that whole section, as I explained to you how DC to DC boost circuit works. Now it works. If you want us to fix your MacBook, check out grossmangroup.com or sendyourmacbook.com. I know a lot of people are working from home now. A lot of people are not using their office computers during these trying times. If you manage to break it, we are here and we will fix it. Essential. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.